How approachable are you as a mom or a dad? And how safe is the home perceived for these edgy conversations? These are the things we have to think about when we talk about being approachable. Welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. This is Rick Wirtz, founder and president of Faithful Fathering, where we encourage and equip dads to be faithful fathers. I want to thank you for your time, your commitment to be the dad you're called to be, to tune into podcasts like this. And my prayer is that as a ministry, we're going to always do our level best to meet you where you are as a father and encourage and equip you on your journey as a faithful father. This podcast series is titled Fathering Focus. Today, there's a plethora of information out there coming at you. Different organizations with blogs, vlogs, podcasts, all giving their perspective on fathering. And it's all input. We just have to decide individually if it's going to encourage and equip us as fathers. Is it going to complement who we are and whose we are on the journey? In this podcast series, I'm talking about the 4 key aspects on the fathering journey to help you evaluate where you are and how you can move forward as the father you're called to be. In the last segment, I addressed intentionality. In this segment, we'll talk about availability. When I think about availability, I think about busyness. That's busy stands for being under Satan's yoke. I have a quick video I want to reference that will give a perspective on this, and we'll talk shortly after. Are you busy? You know, busy stands for being under Satan's yoke. Satan thrives on a man's willingness to work hard to provide well for his family, and then gets him focused on financial success. Wayne Huizenga was a successful businessman, known for Waste Management, Inc., AutoNation, Blockbuster, and Swisher Hygiene. He also owned the Miami Dolphins, the Florida Marlins, and Florida Panthers. But in an interview several years before his passing, he expressed regret that his hectic business life had left little time for his children. He said, "Your kids grow up a lot quicker than you think they do, and all of a sudden you look back and you haven't spent the time with them." The Lord gives us a small window of time to invest in the next generation, maybe 15 to 18 years. Investing well is the role of a faithful father. Busyness has taken many dads out, and I'm one of them. I was working hard to provide for my family, moving up in the company and traveling 75, 80% of the time. I turned around and my daughter was in the 4th grade, and I had not made one parent-teacher conference, not her debut on stage. 460 marbles gone. Fathering is not about balance. You know, the devil for a long time has tried to say that he's equal to Christ, but he is not. The priority is our relationship with Jesus the Christ, lived in marriage and reflected in family. That priority is number one. Everything else falls underneath that. As we realize that, availability allows us to make the majority of our children's events. Missing an event when you set right priorities becomes the exception and not the rule. Today, calendar apps and regular communication in family can help you really prioritize the right stuff and keep the family calendar in good order. As availability conveys right priorities, accessibility can convey significance. If there's a terse response when a child happens to interrupt a conversation you're having with another adult, that terse response can convey an insignificance from the child's perspective. That's not to say it may not have been warranted or there's all kinds of justification. My encouragement is to be very sensitive and aware of what a child's perspective is. You can set boundaries early on. Just say, hey, what are the boundaries for a child to call you at the office? What are the boundaries for a child to interrupt an adult conversation? These are things that you can stand and establish boundaries for as your kids start to mature. But my encouragement to you is when the boundaries are crossed, be very measured in your response, because a tense or terse response in those types of situations can convey an insignificance that a child internalizes for a significant amount of time. And the last thing we want is our children to think that they are insignificant in our lives. Keep a now mindset. This is my friend Tyrone Smith. It's no opportunity wasted, a now mindset. That's a mindset that says that you're accessible to go get an ice cream with your daughter, go have a catch with your son at a whim. That they just want to go do this now. So if you're able to do that, great. There's going to be times you say no, but if there's a window of time you can jump in there, then live into that now mindset that conveys significance in your child's life. As availability conveys priorities, accessibility conveys significance, I want to talk about approachability that conveys love. One of my biggest failures as a dad was to realize that my intensity that comes across in my eyes sometimes and the way I talk, particularly with our daughter, was intimidating. She actually conveyed to my bride that she was scared of me. And you talk about a punch to the soft underbelly of a dad to suggest that there's something I'm doing that actually scares my child. I had to do something different. So I completely revisited, how I would, what tone of voice I would use. I didn't think I was raising my voice, but from her perspective, I was. And so these are the things we do as dads to make sure that our kids understand fully how much we love them. If they had any idea, then there's no way I could come across as intense as I did. But that wasn't her issue. That was my issue as a dad. So being approachable has everything to do with being sensitive. And I always say calling on that secret weapon, which is mom, so that she can talk. She can give you that time out. She can say something softly to say, hey, you're crossing the line, or you're starting to get uptight. Be careful. Those types of things are things that have helped us in our marriage and our ability to rear our children the way we want to, that I would indeed be approachable in later years when I needed to be. Because, Barna's research says that 76% of teenagers want to talk about sex with mom and dad. But how approachable are you as a mom or a dad? And how safe is the home perceived for these edgy conversations? These are the things we have to think about. And when we talk about being approachable, be sure that that any question is fair game in your home, and there's not going to be a condescension or an overreaction to a question. You're just going to simply address it, sit down, and let's have a conversation. So that's the approachability standpoint. And I just want to remind you how our Heavenly Father was always available, accessible, and approachable for His Son. That's our job as faithful fathers. Be available, accessible, and approachable. That's the dad you're called to be, and that's the dad the next generation needs. God bless, Godspeed.